So, Congressman, you alluded earlier to what's been happening on university campuses, and you've been laudably and admirably outspoken and passionate about this. As a Jewish American myself, and as someone who went to relatively fancy schools, I guess you would say, for college and law school, I just can't believe what's happening out there. And I knew it was bad. I mean, I obviously knew it was bad. I spoke at the University of Michigan on the war in Gaza. I was there in November, and I was shouted down by an angry mob of maybe 30 or so pro-Hamas jihadi sympathizers in the audience. It was really ugly stuff. But I mean, what we're seeing and what we've been seeing for the past month or so, I guess school's out for summer now for the most part. But I mean, this is reminiscent of 1930s Germany. I mean, this is Hitler Youth-esque rhetoric being floated around. What in the world are we supposed to do about this?
Well, I think we have a responsibility as a federal government to crack down on it. These universities, these college administrators have failed miserably in their responsibilities to keep the students safe and to ensure, a campus that allows for robust debate, but debate that is rooted in fact and reality and not hate speech, and certainly not threats of violence or actual violence. And unfortunately, they have failed to do that. And so, I have looked at ways to combat it, going back to last year when the CUNY Law School graduation speech occurred. I introduced the Stop Anti-Semitism on College Campuses Act, which would defund institutions of higher learning of their federal dollars, including student aid, if they engage in and promote and sanction anti-Semitic events on their campuses. Last year we worked on the Anti-Semitism Awareness Act, preceding October 7th, but introduced it in the aftermath of October 7th, as we saw, widespread outbreak of these anti-Semitic protests, culminating in the last few weeks. And, we were able to pass the bill through the House just a few weeks ago with broad bipartisan support, 320 members of Congress. And what it did is codify President Trump's 2019 executive order into law. The executive order requires the Department of Education to use the IRA working definition of anti-Semitism and its contemporary examples for Title VI discrimination cases. It does not limit free speech. It does not ban the Bible, as some have tried to say. It does not criminalize Christianity. I myself am a Catholic. But what it does is it gives better guidance to the Department of Education and to these schools as to what anti-Semitism is, for the purposes of making sure that you don't have, hate speech and violence on your campuses.
And I really appreciate that fulsome defense of the Anti-Semitism Awareness Act, because I have also been a defender of this legislation. It simply does exactly what you just said, which is it codifies into statutory form the December 2019 executive order from the Trump administration. There has been just an astounding amount of misinformation on this particular bill, including, unfortunately, from many of my fellow right-of-center commentators. And I appreciate you correcting the record on that. It has nothing to do whatsoever with infringing upon free speech. In fact, Title VI, the statute itself, very clearly says nothing here shall be construed to infringe upon the First Amendment. That's not even how constitutional law works. I mean, a statute.
And by the way, in the statute itself, it says the same thing. And so we built in constitutional protections, which, whether they were in there or not, were already guaranteed. But we went the extra step to make sure that it was clear. And the IRA working definition does not say that, these examples are absolute. It is saying that these can be considered examples of anti-Semitism, depending on the context. And, again, if you're calling all Jews Christ killers, well, yes, that would be considered anti-Semitic. But nobody is saying if you believe in the Bible and you read the gospel, that somehow you're anti-Semitic and therefore we're going to criminalize, the Bible and we're going to, prosecute you. That's in no way what this is talking about, not even remotely close. And again, the objective is to deal with Title VI violations and to better define anti-Semitism for the purpose of the Department of Education enforcing the law.
Right, exactly. It's statutorily providing a rule of construction for Department of Education bureaucrats to interpret Title VI. Frankly, the Biden administration, it might be difficult to hold them accountable even for this rule of construction. So in many ways, it's actually kind of setting the foundation for a possible future Republican administration. But I have just been totally dumbfounded by the deliberate and at times, I think, disingenuous, willful confusion and stirring of the pot on this issue. So I appreciate your very clear clarion stance on that.